Hi everybody, it's Honest John again. Now, for anybody who hasn't figured it out, the Republican Party is the party of racism. The Donald Trump nomination is not the first sign of that. It's the closing argument. And even those Republicans who have criticized Trump's remarks, a lot of them say they are still going to vote for him. Well, you can't have it both ways. You can't pretend that you're against racism and then vote for a person who is a racist scum like Trump. If you vote for Trump, you are a racist. But before Trump came along, the racism of the Republican Party was abundantly clear. From the racist emails that Republicans sent out about Barack Obama and his wife Michelle and even their children, to Steve Scalise, who was the second in command of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. This guy calls himself David Duke without the baggage, which means that the only difference between him and a Klansman is a sheet. And yet he's one of the House leaders, which means that he has the support of the rest of the Republicans in the House. And then, of course, there is Representative Steve King, who has been around for quite a while and has a vast history of racist remarks. The latest being when he questioned what non-whites have contributed to civilization. Now, I'm not going to put down white people. I happen to be one of them. There are a lot of white people that have done some great things, and I admire them. But the ignorance of asking that question. Have you ever counted, Steve? Have you ever counted? I mean, without using your fingers? 1, 2, 3, 4. Those numbers are called Arabic numbers. They're called Arabic numbers because they weren't invented by white people. Well, they might have been invented actually by Indians, not American Indians, I would call them Native Americans, but by Indians. But we know that white people got them from Arab countries. A lot of our knowledge about, the early knowledge about astronomy came from those same Arabic people. Then we have Japan, which those Japanese people, I mean, they are prolific inventors. We've got the digital camera from Japan. We've got all these video games originated over in Japan, as well as the consoles that we play them on. And if you've ever been to college and survived on cup of noodles, well, that came from Japan too. There's a fellow by the name of Dr. Yoshiro Nakamatsu, who's invented over 300 inventions, including the floppy disk. Remember that? You might say, well, that's a piece of technology that's outmoded, and you'd be right, except for the fact that our nuclear command and control system uses floppy disks. Then there's Dr. Shuji Nakamura, who invented blue laser technology. So if you're watching a home movie on a Blu-ray disc, well, he's the guy that allowed you to do that. And of course, we all know that China invented gunpowder, which has many positive uses in addition to some of the negative uses that it has. But they also were the first civilization to have government-issued paper money. And they also invented the holistic approach to health, which is becoming more and more important in the United States today. But of course, when a racist like Steve King talks, he's usually talking about black people. So let's take a look at some of the things that black people have done, their contribution to civilization. Now, we all know about George Washington Carver and his many inventions, and then there's Dr. Charles Drew, who created the Red Cross Blood Bank. The first open heart surgery occurred about 100 years before it was done in the modern time by a black doctor by the name of Daniel Hale Williams. And then there was a Latino guy by the name of Guillermo Gonzalez Camara, and not much of a contribution. Color TV. I bet you all like your color TVs, don't you? Let me tell you something. I grew up with a black and white TV. Color sure got it all over the black and white. Now, Thomas Edison might have invented the light bulb, but it was a black guy by the name of Lewis Latimer who invented the carbon filament that has been used up until now in the light bulb. That's being replaced in a lot of light bulbs that we have now. But from the time Edison invented the light bulb, we were using Lewis Latimer's invention to generate that light. Otis Boykin, another black guy, invented the artificial pacemaker control unit. I think that's a pretty important invention. You can ask anybody who's alive because he's got a pacemaker how important it is to have that unit. Henry Brown invented the first fireproof safe. Now, if you've ever had important papers stored in a safe in a building that caught fire and they survived the fire, it was because of because of Henry Brown. Patricia Bath invented the cataract laser probe. Before that, laser surgery involved an actual kind of very tiny drill that was used on cataracts. So laser probe is a much more efficient, quicker, and accurate way of removing cataracts. So old folks, you've got Patricia Bath to thank for your eyesight if you've ever suffered from cataracts. A black guy by the name of Mark Hanna invented 3D graphics technology, which, did you like the Avengers and the Star Trek movies and all those great movies with all their great special effects? Well, Dr. Hanna is the guy. A fellow by the name of Garrett Morgan invented the modern day gas mask, which allows firefighters, for example, to go into your house and fight the fire rather than just spraying it from the outside. George E. Alcorn invented the imaging X-ray spectrometer, which NASA uses all the time. You always hear about this stuff being tested with spectrographic testing and stuff like that to determine the age of things and what they're made up of. That's Dr. Alcorn. A fellow by the name of Frederick M. Jones invented mobile refrigeration. Before him, you might have a refrigerator in the house, But because of Mr. Jones, now food that is grown one place can be shipped to all kinds of places because it can be kept cold while it's being shipped. A fellow by the name of Arthur Zhang invented a device called the CardioPad, which allows people to have an ECG without traveling to the place where you actually have the ECG machine. It's basically a portable ECG machine. You attach it to yourself, you do the electrocardiogram, and then a doctor is able to read that cardiogram back in the city. So if you're some guy who lives way out on a farm here, it's been especially important in Africa, where transportation can be very difficult. So, like I said, I'm not putting down the contributions that white people have made to civilization, but civilization was not created by white folks, was not invented by white folks. Every continent has had civilizations that have all contributed to us today. And, we should recognize that. It wasn't just white people. I would ask one question, though. What has Steve King ever contributed? Thanks for listening.